Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another session at the DNA University. Today we're going to have a fireside conversation and talk about something that's been a really important topic and part of the membership drive and industry activity from the DNA. We're here today to talk about the Healthy Domains Initiative, and joining me today is the VP from Donuts, but also the chair of the DNA HDI initiative. Welcome to you, Mason. Tell us more about the HDI and how it came up in the first place.
Sure. Well, thanks for the welcome, Tony. It's good to be with you. The Healthy Domains Initiative started about a year and a half ago as an idea among a few registries within the DNA. And the idea was if we could sponsor an initiative that would encourage the further healthy evolution of the domain name industry and the domain name technical space, then that was something we were obligated to do as stewards of the Internet domain name system. So when the idea was presented, the DNA was keen on making that an industry initiative under the DNA as the representative body of registries and registrars, those who have everyday dealings with the DNS. And so we've had a fairly long and detailed process so far in order to develop the direction of the initiative, and its immediate objectives really are a couple of things. One is demonstrate to the industry and to others that pay attention to the industry, like regulators and ICANN and those that have a stake in the DNS, that registry and registrar operators in particular can not only responsibly fulfill their roles in the DNS, but can also find new and innovative ways to make the DNS a safer, more secure, better system so that it continues evolving in a healthy way. And the second objective is just that: is to reassure the user community and everyone else that has a stake in the DNS that those responsible for it are in fact making it a healthier and more vibrant namespace.
So ultimately, it's sort of an effort from the industry to demonstrate that we can indeed govern ourselves and I guess in a nice way, be trusted by the external parties.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I've been involved in the domain industry since the year 2000, and over the course of that time, there's been a great deal of attention paid to the domain name system by the U.S. Congress, by other governments, certainly by ICANN, now by law enforcement authorities, by the intellectual property industry, by all kinds of people who have an interest in the outcome of policy or regulation that has to do with the domain name system itself. And you'd think it's just a tiny piece of internet infrastructure that it wouldn't be subject to so much attention, but it really is. I mean, you know that from your own experience. So because it's a piece of online infrastructure, it gets a great deal of attention, and it's incumbent on us to show the rest of the industry that we can take care of it in a proactive way.
And from your perspective, does this include all top-level domains? Are we talking here about CCTLDs or pre-existing top-level domains, or is it really focused on the new top-level domain program?
Yeah, right now it's pretty well focused on the new top-level domain program. That's where most of the interest is on the DNA side. That's where a great deal of the focus has been in terms of policy development under the ICANN umbrella. Over the past several years, as the new TLD program progressed in coming to maturity, there's been a tremendous amount of policy development devoted to the new domain name space. And so, a good section of DNA membership is devoted to new TLDs, and we've sort of started with the new TLD program, and we're working our way through that for now.
Okay. Yeah, well, that makes sense. So from your perspective, I mean, I think this is an amazing initiative that's been undertaken and well led by yourself. Why, in your mind, why did you think that this was needed? What was the real driver for the activity at the start?
Yeah. Well, if you'll recall, I mean, the new TLD program itself ignited a lot of attention on the domain name system, and the world was used to incumbent TLDs and CCTLDs and established practices and those kinds of things. And when the new TLD program came into the offing, there were all manner of all sorts of work that was devoted to developing new policy that would apply to this fresh landscape, new intellectual property rules, new procedural rules, new technical rules, certainly new rules on who could operate these TLDs, who could make them available to the end user, what rules apply to the end user. And there was a lot of debate back and forth between various parties in the industry about what would constitute a healthy namespace. And as a result, there was some negative media attention on the new TLD program. I think many of us would agree that was unwarranted in a lot of instances, but nonetheless it existed. And so when the new TLD program was finally born, and it started chalking up some success, there was room in the industry and among the user community, and certainly in the regulatory community, to demonstrate that the internet namespace is safer now than it ever has been. And not only that, there are continued opportunities on an industry-led basis to continue to make it even safer. That it didn't require invasive regulation, and it didn't require continual oversight to the degree that maybe was put into place during the development of the last round of TLDs. So we wanted, as an industry body, to get in the mix and show the rest of the world that indeed, the industry can lead itself toward a healthy domain name, healthy namespace, and to change a little bit of the conversation, at least, away from some of the negative and towards some of the positive. And I think we've seen some of that happen already.
Okay, that's great. So I mean, we've had this asked to us by a lot of the DNA members who have wanted to understand more about the initiative. Mm-hmm. Can you give us a perspective of how wide we've engaged and the process of who else has been part of this journey with you?
Sure. Yeah. Going back to, well, at first it was the germ of the idea was mainly contracted parties, the registries and the registrars. And then in discussions as we developed the HDI committee and it became a DNA project, what we decided to do was invite others into the conversation, including child protection authorities, law enforcement agencies, some corners of ICANN itself, so we could learn where ICANN's focus was involved and where the DNA could take up the baton. All sorts of people who, including the U.S. administration here, the Obama administration, and some members of Congress as well. Lots of people who have an interest in where the domain name system is heading have been invited into the conversation. And we, in February of this year, February of 2016, we invited almost 80 of those participants to the first ever Healthy Domain Name Summit in Seattle. There were 70 people in the room. There were seven other people participating remotely. And we had a very deep and robust conversation for an entire day about all sorts of areas where the DNA could focus some effort on developing a healthy namespace. So the conversation has been it's been very participatory, and I'm speaking personally, I've been very pleased with the contributions of people even outside the domain industry.
And do you think it's likely that you continue to do these sorts of events? I mean, it sounds like to have 150 odd people either in person or attending remotely on that topic in such a short amount of time seems like a very positive thing that people want to engage with.
It's been, we've had a lot of positive feedback about how we've started this whole program. We're very interested in making sure that as this initiative develops, that those who have a constructive element to contribute to the HDI have the opportunity to do that. And through the course of the last, just to give you a bit more history, we had that summit in February, and then we've used the occasion of ICANN meetings in June, and then prior to that in March, to update those in the community about how we put everything in one big bucket about what we could be doing, and then how we decided to prioritize those projects. And so we're getting close to that. I'm happy to give you more detail on that. But yes, there's always room in the DNS community for others to contribute to what we're doing.
And as for DNA members that might want to participate and join in this now, after watching this conversation, how do they do that?
Oh, it's easy enough. Just contact me. So it's,
right.
I'm heading up the committee, have for the last about a year and a half now, and I'm happy to include anybody who would like to be included.
Fantastic. All right, so let's talk about that year and a half type period. From your perspective, what are the key outputs and where you are right now in the process?
Yeah, so we identified in the Seattle Summit in February, we identified, I don't know, probably 10 or a dozen ideas that HDI could work on, and it was a very productive conversation. We came away with a big list of ideas that that HDI could eventually focus on, and we realized we couldn't bite off everything in one chomp. So in subsequent conversations, what we decided to do was initially focus on a set of practices that, when put into place operationally by registries and registrars, could have a measurable impact on the health and functioning of the domain name system. And so since then, and I don't have as much detail to share with you yet as I would like to, because we're still working out some of the details. But what we've decided to do is prioritize about 4 or 5 of those issues and divide those into sub-teams, and they're being headed up by volunteers within the HDI committee who are going to develop those into concrete steps that registries and registrars can take to implement some of these practices and then make them known. And then the HDI, or the HDI committee and the DNA more broadly from there, will broadcast those results to the rest of the community so that they're educated about what HDI is actually accomplishing.
Okay, and with this work, how much involvement are you having with ICANN? Is this something that's in conjunction with them, or are we sort of 2 separate paths at the moment? Because I think they're always going to be an important stakeholder in this type of discussion.
Right, it's a good question to ask, and I want to make this really clear to anybody who's watching this video. This is not an ICANN initiative. This is very much an industry-led initiative. We've used the occasion of ICANN meetings to update those in the community about what HDI is doing, and we've done that for the simple logistical reason that that's most people are in the room at that time, and we can use some ICANN facilities to conduct a meeting like we did in the Helsinki meeting in June and Marrakesh in March. So, but I want to be very clear. This is not an ICANN developed or ICANN led initiative. ICANN has taken an interest in it, in what we're doing, and I've had conversations with ICANN staff and others in the ICANN community about what we're doing. It's been very encouraging, but it's very clear, and it should be made clear that this is a DNA-led, industry-led initiative.
Mm. Well, I think it's, in my decade or so in this industry, it's the one thing that I've noticed is the willingness of people to roll up their sleeves and do the volunteer work, the after-hours work, the late calls to help make our industry a better place. So, for what it's worth, I think it's great that you guys are doing this. Let's move downstream. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years from now, who benefits from the initiative, and what does it ultimately look like in your mind if it all comes to plan? Yeah,
good question. What's the end game? Well, in theory, everybody benefits. Registries and registrars benefit because they're putting into practices and concepts that benefit their customers and make the DNS a safer and more secure place, which is always a worthy goal. The regulatory community benefits because they understand that we're in a position to regulate ourselves and take care of the DNS as the people who are responsible for day-to-day operation. And maybe most importantly, end users benefit. They end up with a healthier namespace, one that they know they can trust, one they know they can use in a secure way, and everybody in the mix tends to benefit. And those who have agendas that have the DNS as an element to those agendas, for example, online child protection, or the eradication of illicit internet pharmacies, or certain law enforcement mechanisms that should be taken into account for helping fight online crime. All those kinds of ideas can involve the DNS in proactive work to help eradicate problems. So if we can incorporate in a reasonable way the agendas of those who have similar goals to ours, then everyone benefits. And in terms of your question about what's it going to look like 1 to 2 years from now, to some degree that's up to the community. I mean, my hope is that we have a set of achievements that are measurable and they can be pointed to by the DNA and say, you see what we did when we cooperated with law enforcement authorities about reducing a certain segment of online crime. Do you see what we were able to do when we cooperated with child protection authorities about the incidence of online child abuse? Do you see what we were able to do with pharmaceutical authorities to reduce the problem of what are known as rogue pharmacies online? And then, and then whatever else in that list or other ideas that were generated, in the Seattle meeting and beyond, that can be incorporated in a healthy way into what we're doing, we can point to those too. So what I see is in maybe 2 years' time, we've got a set of achievements that we can easily point to as the DNA, as the industry-led body, to demonstrate to everyone involved that we were able to concretely evolve the internet namespace in a useful and healthy way. And here's what that looked like.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So more immediate then, what are the next steps for you guys within the committee and the initiative?
Right. So next steps are we're going to have a couple more meetings of the HDI committee. There's another ICANN meeting when we'll be in the same room again together in India in November. Before November, what we will do is we'll take those 4 or 5 ideas that we decided to prioritize and establish subgroups for, and those teams will go and produce a set of recommendations that, again, are concrete ways that registries and registrars can implement new practices that have a measurable impact on the health of the domain name system. And we expect to have those prepared and ready to go and recommended to our membership by certainly by the end of the year, if not, by the time we meet in Hyderabad in November.
Okay, great. Well, listen, man, on behalf of the members, I can only say, thank you for all of your efforts, for you and the committee with this. This is an incredibly important and, in a nice way, a mature approach for an industry to take to self-govern and protect its members. So thank you for all your effort. Thanks for taking the time to speak with us today. If you're open to it, we'd love to catch up with you more regularly, via this sort of channel to hear more about what's happening with the initiative.
Yeah,
keep sharing, what's happening with the progress that you're making.
Sure.
And obviously get as many members as possible to be able to participate and join you. Just for the record for everyone, your email address if they want to get in touch with you.
Sure. It's Mason, M-A-S-O-N, at donuts, DONUTS.email.
Nice and simple. Mason at donuts.email.
Right.
Well, thanks very much for your time. And for the rest of the members watching the video, we hope you found this useful. A fantastic initiative being driven here for our industry. And stay tuned for the next one of our Firesides. We'll be recording that in the next week or so. We'll be led and met with Frank Schilling, industry icon and founder of Uni Registry. So I look forward to a always entertaining conversation with Frank. Until then, thanks for now. We'll see you next time.